I'm recording. All right, so Friday we have the test. It's interfacing and ifs are the main things. And it's the first 4 labs and the first 4 homeworks. Those things are due. You're allowed to use any program you wrote, any program you wrote in class, any program you wrote for lab or homework on the test. So it'd be better to have those things done before the test, but they're still eligible for full credit so long as they come in just before midnight on Friday. If you want, I am on, I think, like Wednesday of last week in my grading, and I don't know then I'll get much farther than that before Friday. I will try, but I don't know that I will. So if you have any questions, don't wait for me to reply to your homework or lab. If you know there is some issue you are having in them, then make sure you ask me. You can ask me in class, you can ask me in lecture, you can ask me in lab, you can ask me in office hours. There's plenty of times that we're meeting for you to take care of these things. You know that the test is going to be a scenario which you will program, but you will not be giving me definitions of words or anything like that. It's just going to be, I will say, and I've given you for homework 2 practice tests, and for part of the lab another practice test. They've given you many practice tests, so you should have an idea of what I ask. I think on one of them, some of those are old tests, a different interface. It used to be easy to make a table. I don't have you make tables anymore, so don't expect me to ask you to make tables on the test. And the events of like a text input or a number input, it used to use the typing event, the on key down, and now I just use the on input. So that is an easier, sort of more all-encompassing event. So you might see some differences in those old tests. If it's about a table, ignore it. If it's about the event, go with the sort of more modern events that we know, that we've been learning in this class. Questions, labs, homework, general. It's a new topic. So there's going to be a new topic today that's not on the test. So one more time, if you have questions on old stuff, ask it before I start doing new stuff. Use your hand up. Are you going to ask me a question? Oh, yeah. Not now, but I can check it after class or something. If I have to look at your computer, that has to happen at the end of class. Any questions for me up here on old stuff?
Either a lab or a homework, use an image. Most of the time, whenever I put it into a zip file, like the images never show up. Is it a thing where like I have to bring the image into the zip file as well?
Yes, yes. So when you are sending, if you are working with an image or any file, but the files other than our HTML files that we've worked with so far have been image files. We will get to data files at a later time. But if you are working with another file and you are referring to it just by the name of the file, then that implies that that file is next to, in the file system of your computer, that implies that the image file is next to your HTML file. Then when you are delivering it to me, like if you could do it where it was like HTTP, so you found the image on the internet, and you just give me the full URL. You just give me the full website address. And if you did that, you wouldn't have to do anything, because it's a web resource and it can find it. You've told me how to find it no matter what, provided I have internet connection. But if you're telling me just a file name, you're saying that it is next to your HTML. Or if you put it in a folder, then you told me that it's in a folder and the folder is next to your HTML. Then it's your job, when you are delivering it to me, to send me those images as well. So you might know how to do it, but I'll demo it anyway. I always answer like way more than you ask. So let's say here is this Magritte program that has some HTML files and some image files. And let's say they all go together. They have the relationship I want them to have, that the images are next to the HTMLs. Then I would highlight everything. Let's say I don't want that number one. I don't know what that is. Let's say I don't want that. Then I can hold down Control and sort of deselect it if I want. And then, having highlighted the things I want, I then will right-click and say send to compressed, and that will zip them all up, the HTML and the images. If I deliver to you a zip, so let's say I delivered this zip to you, if I'm giving you images, like I probably did for the car, I think that had images, right? Where was that? That was the lab, last week's lab, the Uber test. So if I deliver to you a zip, it's important that you extract it. So you must go through this extract process and then close. The zip can fool you. Zip can give you the idea that you have complete access to the files, and you don't really. So you must unzip it. You must extract it to have full control over the files. And if you're sending me, you could have sent me Magritte back here on the Magritte. Where's the Magritte? You could have sent that to me by opening up the email and attaching the HTML, attaching the images, and doing them all. In general, you should get used to zipping. You're going to be sending people in your life code, and HTML can get through our email system, even if it has some JavaScript in it. But other code files, if you were trying to send me a Python program, it wouldn't go through. The email system would say that's code. I don't want to deliver code. So you would have to zip it. The HTML, you can get away without zipping it, but it's good if you know how. Yeah, I know I answered way more than you asked, but anyway. Any other questions? You and you are here. All right. Okay, so if there are no questions on old stuff, I'm going to start new stuff, and that is going to be loops, a repetition structure. And I tend to teach, there's like sort of two categories of loops. There's a loop is to repeat something. To sort of do something a number of times is very important in computers. That's what they're good at, is doing the same thing over and over again. And a for loop is designed, if you know ahead of time before the loop starts, not necessarily when you as a programmer are writing the program, but just as you're ready to start the loop. If when you're ready to start the loop, you know how many times you're going to be repeating yourself, doing the same thing, slight variation on it over and over again, then you tend to use a for loop. If you are doing something until some condition happens and you don't know how many times that is, then you tend to use what's called a while loop. And some people will teach a while loop first because it's kind of like an if. But I teach a for loop first because I think it's easier to understand repetition if you know from the start how many times you're going to repeat. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. So I'm going to return to a problem we've done before, or you've done for a homework, although some people have given me no homework and no labs yet. But a simple sort of introductory program that we've seen is the sort of tip calculator. So we said, what was the bill and what tip do you want? And then we did a calculation. But we're going to do a modification of that program, and we're going to say, what was the bill? And then we're going to just give them a sequence of tip amounts. So we'll say, this is if it was 5%, this is if it was 10%, 15%, and so on. So that will be a loop. We're going to do repeated calculations with a slightly variation on each one. And that's a loop. Okay. So I want, I don't want Marguerite, I want CSC. I'm going to make a new thing, and I'll call it the tip loop.html. And VM an abbreviation and change it to, I don't know.
What was the,
What was what?
how do all codes spans fonts?
To get here,
All that in,
to get all that. I made a new file. I had a folder selected. I clicked new. I said, whatever, I should give it an HTML extension so it knows what kind of file it is. I typed shift to get an exclamation point, and then it says M an abbreviation for me. Sometimes it doesn't say M an abbreviation, then we have to work at your computer a little bit. You got it?
Yeah.
And then if I hit enter, it gives me the start of a web page. Okay. So let me also emphasize the things that are going to be on the test, although this new material, the loop, is not going to be on the test, but you are going to have sort of some 3-point things like an HTML comment. I usually ask you to put your name. A title, there's a title, a header, there's a header. Maybe I ask you to change the color of the page. So that's in style. And that's the body. And the background color. But will I make the background color aquamarine? Yeah, that'll be hideous. Good. And then the color is the color of the writing. And I'll make that, I don't know, navy. What else will I give you points for? And a JavaScript comment. So eventually we're going to have some code. So let's make a script tag. I like them these days. I like to put them at the bottom. And some comment. So often at the beginning, that's some sort of throwing little points at you at the very beginning. HTML comment, JavaScript comment, colors, titles, headers. Okay. If you say header like that, I will accept it. It's not what I wanted, but I will accept it. Because that is saying that everything between open header and closed header is serving the purpose of a header on your page. That it's called semantic. It's sort of describing what it does. Whereas this H1 is about how things look, and it will make it bigger and put it on a line by itself. So they're both, strictly speaking, headers. One's about the way it acts on the page, and the other one's about how it looks on the page. And I will accept either when I ask you for a header. If you put a header in the head, I will take off a little bit of points. Not a lot, because it will work, but it's not, the header is something that's on the body that you will see, and so it belongs in the body. So the word header makes it sound like maybe it belongs in the head of some people, but it doesn't. The only thing in the header the only thing in the head that is visible is the title, which is on the tab. So open with the live server. And there is this completely, that's not that hideous. Okay. So what do we want to do? Before we had them enter the bill and the tip amount, but now we're going to give them just a whole sequence of tip amounts. And so all we need from them is the bill amount. So I'll make a label. Enter the bill amount. And then I'm going to have an input of the type number. And what I'm going to give it an ID, because I need to get that bill amount out. So this is the part that is relevant to what you're doing on Friday, just getting something off getting it ready on HTML so you can get something off the page. So I need to have an ID so I can get something off the page. Let's say that the minimum is 0. I don't want them to have a negative bill. We want a max $1 million. Yeah. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. What about a step? Oh, by hundreds or something like that. Is that? No, let's just leave step alone, or I think it'll, for a step of 1, probably, we'll see. Okay. All right. So that is, they enter a bill. We'll give them a button to click. Do you want an input, or do you want a button tag? He likes a button tag. There's a button tag. It's going to say, show me the tip schedule, or show me the tips. I don't know. And what? I want maybe a break here. I want maybe a break there. I want maybe I will disable the button. So I may code the button by disabling it. So I'll give it an ID. Button tip, I'll call it. And I want to, when they click the button, to call some function that's going to display the results. So I'm going to have an on click. And I'm going to call a function. I'll call it just tip. So now I know here in the script, I need a function tip, open close parenthesis, open close curly, make myself some space. Okay. And what do I need to do? I need to get the amount of the bill to do my calculation. So I'm going to say let bill equals document get element by ID, parentheses, quotes, it was text bill. What's written in the box by the user is known as the value. So I'm going to say dot value. I'm going to alert that just to see if I've got it. I don't want to write too much before I start testing. And eventually I need a place to put an answer. Do you want a div, a paragraph, a text area? What do you want?
We're going to go on ahead and do a text area.
He wants text area.
Yeah.
Okay. He raised his hand before you shut it out, so I'll go with him. But I usually go for just shouting out, so that wasn't wrong.
Wait, can we actually do a div?
Do you try to piss me off, or do you just come naturally to you? All right, now he wants a div. If we're going to code it, it should have an ID. I'm going to call it div tips, div results. What do you want to call it? Div tip. Okay. I'm going to save. I like to format every once in a while, make sure things are lining up. That's a way to sort of see if things, and I don't think I need the Explorer, but I need to save. And let's see. I don't really need to run it again, but I did. And let's say that the bill was $25.99. Okay. And I got the $25.99 out of there. Now, what should I possibly do? Depends. But what's something I could do on line 33? Parse float. I could say this thing that's coming in is a number. I want it to be understood as a number, and then I would do a parse float. Some things you do, the computer will figure out for you, and some things it won't. Addition is everything. It's usually addition that's the problem. But now, if we do our parse float, it understands it right away. So these are all things that have nothing to do with the loop. And these are things that should come just flying to you, hopefully at least by Friday, because interfacing was what the test is about. Okay. Now we want to do what? Comment out the alert. Commenting out code will be an important skill for you on the test on Friday, because if you have some code that doesn't work, I have points just called my syntax points for if everything's working. Even if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, but if what it does do, it works without error, you get the syntax points. But if you have some code that you think is worth partial credit, but it's not working, then you want to comment it out, and you want to get the syntax points and the partial credit for your code. You guys remember that you can also do a multi-line comment /* //. And then there could be, other things in here. So I'm alerting out the word bill, alerting out the bill, and alerting out I. So just there are two kinds of comments, the single line comments, then start the // and the multi-line comments, then start with /* and end with //. Okay, so we want to take this bill amount, which we have, and we want to start saying, you know, if you pay 1% tip, 2% tip, 3% tip. Okay, so where do you want to, well, let's just start and then we'll say how we can vary it. So we start with the keyword for, and there we're going to have three things in parentheses. Where to start, where to stop, and what to go up by. Where to start, where to stop, what to go up by. What tip percentage do you want to start with? 0. He's cheap. He doesn't want to pay any tip. All right. So I need something that is going to go. I need a variable that is going to start at 0. So I need the name of a variable that's going to start at 0. Tip? I. Okay. I often count with I, so I like that. So let's be good and declare it. So let's say let I equals 0. So I is often used in mathematics for iterating through things and counting things and summing things. Okay, so there are 3 parts of the for. Those 3 parts are separated by semicolons. And the first part is to say where we're starting. So we're going to have a variable called I, which is going to be start off at a 0. The next part is the condition under which you will continue to change the tip amount. I is less than 10. Well, how much do you want? I'm not going to let you decide. What do we want to go up to? 25. 30. He's trying to impress the waitress or something. I don't know. Okay. So the second part is the condition on which we will continue. Do you want 30 to be possible, or do you want to stop just short of 30? 30 is possible. Then we should say less than or equal. So we will be in this loop right now. Well, I have to decide what we're going to go up by, but I'm going to decide for you. And for now, we're going to go up by 1s. And if we go up by 1s, then we will be in this loop 31 times. I think that's right. Yeah, because we're starting at 0 and going up to 30, including them. So, and so if we're going up by 1s, there are different notations, but there's a simple notation for going up by 1. And I'll rewrite it and we'll go up by 5s. But for now, we'll go up by 1s. And you can just say I plus plus. Seen this at least once before when we were guessing numbers. And we wanted to say, here's my first guess, my second guess, my third guess. We incremented our counter. So this, we are incrementing our counter I, which is corresponding to us for a tip. So there are the 3 parts of the for loop. Where we start, the condition under which we continue, and what we're going up by. You can also go down by. So we could have started at his 30 and come down. Okay. So, and we might just make more divs and write different versions of the loop and giving their output in different divs. Okay, but this is our first one. And we want to, let's just see the loop and then do the calculation. So the loop is we want to put something on the page in the div document. Again, when you're, remember your basics. I hope you're going to get this right on Friday. When you're getting something from the page, the document .get element by ID is on the right. When you're doing something to the page, the document .get element by ID is on the left. So document get element by ID. What was the ID of that div? That used to be a text area, but now is a div tip. What is the relevant property of a div? The inner HTML. We don't want to overwrite. We don't want to keep overwriting the inner HTML. We want to add to what we already have. Plus equal. You just say equal, it overwrites and you only get the last thing. But if you say plus equal, you get all the stuff. And then let's just say for now, I and a break. So that each counter I will be on its own line. I plus quote break like that and a semicolon. We're going to do more here, but let's just start and see the loop and then we'll dress up the loop. That's what I like to do with ifs. See that I have my two branches or multiple branches of the if, and then do what I actually want to do. If I loop, make sure I'm looping the number of times I want, then actually do the actual thing I want. So what does this guy do at this stage? Okay, so you enter some amount, 89.99. And then show me the tips. So here is my loop that printed something on the page, starting at 0, going up to 30. Okay. So I have a successful loop. Now I need to do what I actually want to do in the loop. So what do I want to do? I want to take the bill amount. I want to multiply it by the I, but then I need to turn the I into a percentage. So that's divide by 100. And then I want to add the bill in again, because I want not just, are we going to show the tip amount? Or are we going to show the total? Or are we going to show both? Both? He says both. I like that answer. So we'll say let tip, and the tip is going to be what? The bill times the counter divided by 100. And the total is going to be the bill plus the tip. And then instead of I, let's really have this long thing. So if I say let's say this. I'm going to move this down the line. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's keep the I. Let's say the tip. If I have a plus at the end of a line and I go to a new line, I'm okay. It understands and I'm continuing what I had previously. So I have the tip is I, and maybe I'll say percent sign. And then I'll say is, and then I'll say plus the tip. And maybe I want to display the tip to 2 decimal places from usual sort of money. And I'll say, I don't know, giving a total of plus the total. It's really long-winded. Also 2 fixed. A 2. And a plus and a break. So document get element by ID div tip dot inner HTML plus equal, and then I'm saying the word tip with a colon, and then the I, and then a percentage is, and then the tip dot 2 fixed, so 2 decimal places, and giving a total. Let me have a space in there. Giving a total of, and then the total, and then a break. And I'm coming in and out of the quotation. There's another approach, but if I'm taking this approach, let the color help you. So my variables, that sort of orangey color is for in my scheme, that sort of orangey color is the literal things that's in a quote. And so this word tip and the percent and the giving, those are all the things that sort of don't change. And then the things that do change are the I and the tip and the total. And then what is my my meal cost 80, and then show me the tips. So if I paid 0 tip, I would still just pay the 80. If I paid a 1% tip, I'd pay 80 cents. And there we go. Okay.
What's equal?
Cool. So far, so good. Okay. Now, what do we want to say? I'm just going to do this again, div tip, and make another. I'm going to make a shorter list, so I'll call it shorter. And I'll call it div tip 2. And I'm just going to make another loop that gives me, that doesn't go through as many of them. And just show sort of some for loop stuff. So I'm going to copy my whole for loop because I'm just going to do another for loop, but I'm just going to modify some stuff in the for loop. So there's my for loop. Now I'm not going to be such a cheapskate who's going to pay no tip at all. So I don't want to start at 0. Give me a new starting. 10. I'm going to go with the 10. All right. Do we still want to go to 30? Sure, why not? And what do you want to go up by? 5. Okay. I like his answers. All right, so now I have to go up by 5s. I don't have a shorthand. I have a quasi shorthand for going up by 5s. So slash star star slash. Okay. I have two ways of going up by 5. I can say I equals I plus 5. That's one way. I can say that says on the right-hand side, take the current I, add 5 to it, and then make it the new I. Reassign that value to I. Or I can say I plus equal 5. And that does the same thing. It's just a shorthand notation. When you're going up by 1, there's an even shorter notation of plus plus. So these, you have your choice of 51 or 52. They both tell me to go up by 5. Which one do you like? First or second? Second. Go kick him. All right. So I, she likes the second one. Plus equal 5. So we should start at 10, go up to and including 30. We should be going up by 5s, and I'm going to put them in div tip 2 this time. So let's see. So it will have, there are 2 divs here, which there's nothing in them yet, but it will have the all the go by 1s, and then it will have the go by 5s after this a word shorter. So let me say that it was 8877. Show me the tips. So there are all the tips going up by 1. And then here's the shorter, and here's the smaller thing going up by 5s. So the 10% was 8.88, giving a total of 97.65. And it's just doing the 10s. What do we want to do? I can disable the button so that you can't click it again unless you change the amount of the bill. That's something we could do. I could come in this bigger list and find the things that are 5s, that are divisible by 5, and maybe change the color to do red or something. What do you want to do? You want to play disable a button and enable a button if they change the price? That's sort of the stuff you might see on Friday. Or we can play sort of how to take one of the things out of a loop and make it a little bit different than the other things. First one, okay. So when we click on the tip, then I want to disable the button. So I'm doing something to the page. So I start with document, get element by ID. I want the button. It's the button I'm going to disable. That's button tip. Do not be, there is a disabled property. And I'm going to set that equal to true. What else should I do if, okay, so that's what I'm doing. I'm disabling the button so that they don't keep adding more and more tip schedules. Okay. Now, if they change the bill, then I want to clear out the old schedule and re-enable the button. So I need a new event, I need a new function. I need an input event. We usually, for text and number inputs, we usually use on input. I need a function. I usually call it clear out, if that's what I'm doing, and I am. And so now I need to define this clear out function. So I need to be outside of my other function, but inside of my script. There's my clear out function, open close parenthesis, open close curly. What do I want to do? I want to enable a button,
Yeah.
and I want to clear out my schedules. So I'm going to copy code because I don't like to type too much. So here I'm making the button disabled. Now I want to make the button enabled. So I change my true to a false. And here I am writing stuff. I'm in line 60, but there's a similar line. But on line 60, I'm writing stuff to div tip 2. I'm going to steal that, copy. And what I want to do, I don't want to do a plus equal. I don't want to add anything to what I already have. I want to make it equal to, quote, quote, I want to clear it out. And I also want to do the same thing to div tip. So I am clearing, standard thing for me to put on test 1, get some information from the data, from the user, do something. If they change that data, get rid of your answer. And where are we at? So here is some bill amount, 56.89. There's the shorter, there's the longer, there's the button disabled. But if I change the amount even by $1, not even $1, it enabled the button and cleared out the lists. Now I'm sufficiently close to the end of the period, so I will ask, are there any questions for the recording before I turn it off? New topic is the for loop, sort of iteration. For, use the keyword for, and then 3 things: where to start, condition to continue, what to go up or down by. We could have gone down. And then whatever we want to do.
So let's say, for example, start at 0, and we go third number.
Okay.
We put our condition that it's equal. Well, right?
We'll go to 12. It will go when the condition fail. It will test this condition. It tests this condition, and if it's true, it does the stuff, and then it comes back and tests the condition. So if the condition is not true in the beginning, nothing happens, not even once. And in your scenario, it went to 12 was the last time that worked, and then it would go up to 15. The condition would fail, and you would not perform that, what we call an iteration.
And it will stop.
It would stop. You might have code, your code you might have stuff after the loop. I mean, there could be stuff that I did after this loop, and so it's not the code would stop, but the loop would stop. All right, I will stop recording. I will hang out and answer questions.